go? Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. It is 6 p.m., and we are convening the organizational meeting and a regular meeting of the Cuyahoga Heights Schools Board of Education. Mr. Muccio, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Decker.
Here.
Mrs. Etter.
Here.
Mr. Suchaki.
Here.
Ms. Prouse.
Here.
Mr. Donovan.
Here, 5 present, none absent. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome our students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. The board values and encourages public comment on education issues. Anyone having an interest in the actions of the board may participate during the public comments portion of this meeting. Please identify yourself on the board sign-in sheet. A copy of the board meeting agenda is available for review on our school district's website. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting. With that, let's recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please?
So moved.
Ms. Decker moves. I'll Ms. Etter seconds.
Okay.
Mr. Evans, Mr. Muccio.
We can remove the executive session. I just wasn't certain if there might be anything that we would need to go into. I have nothing at this time to update the board in executive session, so unless the board desired to, we can omit that from the agenda.
So that'd be agenda item 22 would be removed from the published agenda, correct? Executive session 20, agenda item number 22. Okay. If there's no other changes or edits, or we can move to a roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Suchaki.
Aye.
Ms. Prouse.
Aye.
Mr. Donovan.
Aye, the motion passes 5-0. We're now moving on to agenda item number 3, which is the administration of oath to our newly elected board members by Mr. Muccio.
I, Mr.
Gary Suchaki.
Jennifer Decker.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as board members of the Cuyahoga Heights Board of Education in Cuyahoga Heights, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, to the best of your abilities and in accordance with laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
I do.
Congratulations.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Congratulations to you. Thank you, Mr. Muccio. We're moving on to agenda item number 5, and that is to open the floor for, agenda item number 4, and that is to open the floor for nominations for the presidents of this board for the calendar year 2024. With that, I'd like to make a nomination, and I am nominating Mr. Suchaki to be the president for this calendar year. There is not a need for a second, and the floor remains open, so if there's any additional nominations, we can put those out there, or anyone is free to put those out there. Hearing none, we can move to a motion to, okay, could I have a second on the motion to nominate Mr. Suchaki to the presidency?
I'll second it.
Ms. Etter seconds. So with that, then if there's no other nominations, we can move to a motion to close the floor for additional nominations. And so I'm going to make a motion that we close the floor to further nominations. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Ms. Decker seconds. If there's no discussion, we can move to a roll call vote on the motion to close the floor to further nominations. And then we'll vote on the outstanding motion to elect Mr. Suchaki president this year.
Mr. Donovan.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Suchaki.
Aye.
Ms. Prouse.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And we now need to do a roll call vote, or do we not?
Nope.
No, we don't.
No.
Okay,
Mr.
so we're
Suchaki's.
good. Well, congratulations, Mr. Suchaki. That was
That was quick and easy,
quick
wasn't
and
it?
easy, yeah, and relatively painless. So we are now going to move on to agenda item number 5, and that is,
Whoop, whoop.
sorry?
I have Or some B. kind of an
Oh,
He has to swear him in.
oh, my bad, I apologize.
You're going to swear me in, I'll just read it, or?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay.
I, Gary Suchaki, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as President of the Board of Election of the Board of Education of the Cuyahoga Heights Schools, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws in effect now and hereafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And at this point, I guess we switch the meeting, or to switch who's,
Yeah, that works for me.
pass the gavel.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a long reach.
Yeah. Okay, and at this point, I would like to open the floor for nominations for Vice President of the Board for calendar year 2024. And I will start that process by nominating Mr. Dobbins. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second from Mrs. Decker.
Great.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for Vice President? Okay, hearing none, if I can read this.
You say I move that we close nominations
Yeah, I
for the
move
office
we
of Vice
close
President.
nominations and instruct the treasurer to cast a ballot for the nominee.
Do we have a second to this?
Yeah,
Just
Mrs. Decker.
So Mr. Suchaki,
Aye.
Mrs. Decker,
Aye.
Mrs. Etter,
Aye.
Ms. Kraus,
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
And the motion passes 5-0. Congratulations. Oh, you have to take the oath.
That's right, not quite.
Will the treasurer please administer the oath?
Okay. Mrs. Decker, do you solemnly swear?
Mr. Dobbins.
Oh, Mr. Dobbins, excuse me.
That's
Mr.
right.
Dobbins, I'm sorry. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as Vice President of the Board of Education of the Cuyahoga Heights Schools, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, to the best of your ability in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank
Now we
you,
can say
Mr. Muccio.
congratulations.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Fine hands.
I would like to, I do have some remarks. I would like to thank Mr. Dobbins for agreeing to serve as Vice President. Last time we worked together in this duo, President and Vice President, he was invaluable to me in that position, and I'm looking forward to working together with him as a pair again, and of course with all my fellow board members as well, and the administrators. So that's all I have. At this point, we go through this long list, and I just walked past it by accident, a long list of organizational meeting business resolutions. And I will read the individual titles. I will not go into the details. They are all in the agenda as published. The following resolutions are up for vote. Board adoption of bylaws and policies. The regular meeting schedule as published. Service fund, which I'll mention is $15,000 for the board. The law firms that we have used over the last couple of years, and it's Britton, Brisner, McIntyre, Hyberpolk and Cabot, and Weltman Weinberg. Publication of record is the plain dealer. Purchasing agent is the treasurer. Motion to authorize.
And superintendent.
And the superintendent, I'm sorry. Motion to authorize superintendent and treasurer to apply for available state funds as available. Motion to appoint the superintendent to serve as the board spokesperson. Employment of personnel and accepting of resignations delegated to the superintendent. Motion to approve the attached list of appointments to committees. These are the committees from the current year. We can change those later if we need to. Motion to set the school's credit card limits as in the previous year and according to policy, $25,000 for the treasurer, $2,000 for maintenance supervisor. And Home Depot credit, $5,000 for the maintenance supervisor. And Woods class, okay. Approval for the wireless communications allowance, security of the performance bonds, investments of funds, as determined by the treasurer, to accept the alternative tax budget, and to accept the legal counsel of Brisden, McIntyre, and Seed as agent related to filing and signing real estate tax complaints. At this point, I'll accept a motion for that approval agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 7, which is the organizational business resolutions that Mr. Souchaki described. And I would note that the text should prevail in terms of our description of the same in those areas where there may be a slight difference. So that would be my motion, is to approve agenda item 7 as written and as verbally summarized by Mr. Souchaki. Is there a second? I'm sorry.
May we have a second, please?
Second.
Okay. We have a second. Is there any discussion?
Yep, I just wanted to touch base, quick minute on the alternative tax budget. So that is our item O. And I really wanted to highlight this page here and talk about the valuations, the new valuations that we have for 2023. So the way this page is set up is we have prior year for comparison and we have current year up top. And the prior year for comparison, what I wanted to do is a quick little activity. So if everybody sees in the public content there, there's a link. And I have the TV set up as I click on it to the left as well. So I'm going to click here. And what it's going to do, it's going to bring me to the Ohio Department of Taxation's website. And I'm going to scroll down to property taxes. Click here. I'm going to go to the very first one. Click on this one. So this is the property values by school district. I'm going to go to tax year 2022, the most current. Click on that. It's going to download a file. I'm going to open that file here on the screen. Make it a little bigger. I'm going to go to that third tab, which excludes JVSs, so just school districts. I'm going to freeze some of these cells at the very top. And I'm going to find us, Cuyahoga High Schools. And we are line 118 on that third tab. I'm going to highlight that yellow on the screen. And I wanted to see how close, and I'll make this a little bigger,
The third.
my estimates are to the Ohio Department of Taxation as far as revenue goes for what we collect. So if we look at that second, the bottom half that we have in gray, beige, I guess you can call it, the amount is $13,045,423. So that amount's arrived at taking our valuation, looking at the effective rates as well as the maximum rate authorized, and then we have that estimated tax revenue at 100% collection. Does everybody see that on the bottom half of the page in the middle, the $13,045,423? And then over to the right, I have it broken out how much we get per each levy for Class 1, Class 2, and public utility personal property. And then what those amounts are, and then the total of $13,045,423. And we can see the amounts for Class 1, ultimately $3,033,796, for Class 2, $7,007,001, and public utility personal property, $3,004,625. So if we come here to the spreadsheet from the Ohio Department of Taxation, and scroll over, we can see the valuation, the total property tax value that we have, which matches up to $437,995,290. That figure in the right down there, that we have that bottom half. Let's look at the revenue. So, real property taxes. So for Class 1, they have $3,033,785. It's a difference of $11 for mine. If we look. For Class 2, they have $7,006,995. That's a difference of $6 from my $7,007,001. And then we have public utility personal property, $3,004,624. It's a difference of $1 from my $3,004,625. So ultimately, the total tax amount calculated, total property taxes for the Ohio Department of Taxation, $13,045,404. It's a difference of $19 from my $13,045,423. I chalk that up to rounding.
Is yours an estimate or are they both actual?
Well, these are estimates.
Okay.
Yep.
These are estimates too then?
Yep.
Got it,
Yep, and 100% collection. So,
got it.
so now that we know what we're looking at the bottom half, and we can pretty much attest that these numbers are pretty solid. So the top half that we have here, as we look for the new year, tax year 2023, so our valuations went up. It went to a total of $452,231,070. And it increased in our public utility personal property by about 2 million, so from 84 million to 86 million. And for our class 2, which is commercial, industrial, and mineral, it went from 234 million to 246 million. Valuation for class 1 residential pretty much stayed the same at 119 million between tax years 22 and 23. And if we look at the money, we can see up at the top in purple, it's 13,403,439. So that's a difference of about 350,000 in additional revenue we're going to get from the valuations. Now we can see that we're getting more in class for the inside millage, and that's due to the valuation increasing. We can see it went from about 8, so 1,795,000 to 1,854,000. So that's about a $55,000, $60,000 increase that we have for our inside millage that we see. The big increase that we're looking at is going to be for class 2. So class 1, we're looking at 3,033,000 was prior year, 3,036,000, so that's pretty much the same. Class 2 is where we really increase. It went from 7,007,000 to 7,273,000. So that's over a $250,000 increase for class 2. And remember, that valuation went up. That's primarily the new construction that we saw take place, like Ferguson and Amazon and those businesses that we had. Our public utility personal property, remember, that valuation went from 84 million to 86 million. And that comes out to about a $90,000 increase. So from 3,004,000 to 3,094,000. And again, these are estimated at 100% collection. So we'll see how it goes. All right, just wanted to highlight that. Thought it would be a fun little example to put something else up to kind of show a comparison between the numbers that we have.
So Mr. Muccio, am I correct in understanding that the district's tax revenues from these valuation changes would increase only to the extent that there's the inside millage effect? Is that a fair, relatively fair statement aside?
That is true, yes, that's true, as well as new construction.
Okay, so
So-
but for new construction, the effect of the valuation change is only felt within that inside 4 mil component of our revenue structure.
Correct.
All right,
And
thank
that's
you.
approximately 50, 60,000.
Okay, thank you.
And you also said it's at 100% collection,
Yes,
so, but ours hasn't, what has it averaged?
about 97.
Yeah, so we're close to 100%, but.
We're like one of the highest in the county
Yeah.
collection-wise.
Yeah,
I
okay,
don't know that anybody's collecting the greater percentage than us.
yeah. Nice.
Any other discussion on this issue?
I just have one other change to note, that on the committees, at one point in time, they were listed, under the advice of council, the committees used to be listed as board committees, and they suggest we change those to superintendent/treasurer committees, the finance, audit, and technology committee. So that's under the advice of council, so that change is reflected in that handout that you've been given.
That was a source of much consternation a few years back, as I recall.
Just with some things that are going on right now, Bob McBride said it's a better way for us to go with
Okay.
those committees, so.
I don't have any problem with it. Any other comments on item number 7, business meeting resolution? Okay, hearing none, will the treasurer please call the roll?
Mr. Souchaki?
Aye?
Ms. Prowse?
Aye.
Mrs. Decker?
Aye.
Mrs. Etter?
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Comments from the public would be a little difficult to get since there isn't nobody here. So moving on, treasurer's business.
Thank you, Mr. Souchaki. Just 3 items tonight. Ask for motions 10A, 11A through 11B for approval tonight.
Okay, may we have a motion for the treasurer's business, please?
I make a motion to approve the treasurer's
Dobbins?
consent
We
agenda
have a-
items.
Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second. Is there any, Mrs. Decker? Is there any discussion?
Just wanted to highlight the purchase order over 5,000. We just had one, and that was for, click on that attachment, the weatherproofing technologies. That's for the infrared analysis of 26 roofs that we have, $7,008.89.
And that's in addition to what we normally have.
Yeah,
with that
we do this about once every
25,000.
5, yeah, we do this about once every 5 years, just to, where they go over with the infrared and just look for heat signature to see if we have any faults or anything that you can't see with the eye.
When do they normally do that?
He actually wanted to do it if we had a break, although I'm gonna recommend it this week, we might lose him if he was on top of the building. But,
Yeah.
actually, once this got approved, I was gonna call, and he was hoping that if we stayed without snow cover on the roofs, that we
Yeah.
could get that done. So when we don't, and
Yeah.
who knows what we're gonna have through the weekend, but he'd like to get that done. That's a winter-type project when they're generally not doing a lot of roofing projects, so they can, and he needs that data then to help us give an analysis on
But there
where
can't
we're
be
at
any
moving
snow on
forward.
the roof.
Right, right.
Okay.
Anything else? Hearing none, will the treasurer please call the roll on your consent agenda?
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Ms. Prowse.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Treasurer discussions and comments, section 13.
Yeah, busy time of year. I just wanted to put for 13A and 13B, the revenue generated per 1 mil. So we know the amount for tax year 2022 is $437,995. And the amount now for tax year 2023, again from our sheet, it's going to be the top right-hand corner in that little box that we see. Those boxes hold the revenue per 1 mil. We just take our valuation of $452,231,070, divide by 1,000. That gets us the amount for tax year 2023 of $452,231. So that's our revenue generated, 1 mil for tax year 2023. 13C, discussion Suburban Health Consortium. Just wanted to point out a few items. So we know we're about 3 months into the fiscal year for Suburban Health Consortium, and we know for the month of November that the consortium was out of compliance with revised code. They had gone under the ORC 9.833 best estimate, which was 12.1. We remain under that amount. So the consortium ended December with 11.3 million. They went down from 11.9 million. So we continue to be out of compliance with the Ohio Revised Code 9.833. The consortium's aware of that. Just also wanted to point out that the monthly cash for Suburban Health is approximately $11 million. And for the first 3 months of the year, Suburban Health Consortium has earned $1,571 worth of interest. Now, as a comparison with us, we have approximately $20 million worth of cash every month, and we earn approximately $90,000 a month. So that's 1 month, and they've earned only $1,500 for 3 months. That's due to the fact that they have to break CDs. So they're doing the reverse of a CD. So when you have a CD, you get interest on it after it matures. But since the consortium is strapped for cash, they have to break CDs that they had invested in, and they're paying on those as a reverse effect. And then just 2 other things to update the board on: the switch from Medical Mutual to Anthem. Myself and the Elixa attended training yesterday, January 9th. Anthem is currently building the health plans for all the Suburban Health Consortium schools. Anthem will collect the census data from all the school members around mid-February. Anthem anticipates the online portals will be up and running mid-March. Anthem also anticipates it will mail out insurance cards mid-March to our staff and all staff members of the consortium. And our health insurance with Anthem begins April 1st. Now, I was discussing with Mr. Evans, seems like a pretty aggressive timeline with Anthem. Failure's not an option, so we're
I'd be shocked if they could meet that timeline. That's a lot of crossover to get done, and
Right.
also, as Mr. Muccio stated, Medical Mutual's not really happy about the move, so they're not being very cooperative with Anthem about providing information that Anthem needs to make some of these things happen. So like I said, when they came in and told us that was, well, I'll believe when I see it, and I'm gonna say the same thing here, I'll believe it when it's all said and done and we got everybody crossed over, so.
Can they operate if they're not in compliance?
I've asked the consortium, other treasurers have asked, it may lead to more oversight, it may lead to audit, recommendations, a going concern in the audit, so there's some issues that, will arise with that. The consortium's aware, that's why we expedited the move from Medical Mutual to Anthem. We knew the cash balance was critical. We had a whole meeting with 20 superintendents, 20 treasurers, Mr. Evans, myself, we were there, and a lot of discussion on making the switch, just how crucial it was. So that was the vote where it was, the majority, it was around 16 school districts voted to, make that move, just because everybody realized, cash is depleting. Nobody wanted to see a mid-year rate increase that they were discussing. Had everybody stayed with Medical Mutual, could have been something in the area of 5, 10%, maybe even more.
The reality, Mrs. Etter, is the timeliness that these moved, that nobody's got an alarm clock on it, watching where we're at as far as ORC. So I would estimate that the auditors wouldn't catch this for quite some time. By the time that they take a look at that, we will have made the switch to Anthem, we'll be back in compliance based on what Anthem's telling us. So they will see that our move to Anthem had self-corrected the mistake, so while they might send us a nasty letter, said you shouldn't have let that happen, but I don't know that beyond that there's a whole lot of consequences. If we are, in fact, as Anthem has promised, for us to be back in compliance when we made the move to them, so.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that we personally, Cuyahoga Heights, won't be, held accountable for something, or won't harm us in some way.
Whatever happens to all 20 districts.
Okay.
So if they say you need another $5 million in that reserve fund to be happy, then that gets divided up amongst the 20 districts proportionally, so.
And last thing for Suburban Health, just want to update the board. I had asked Anthem to come out and present to all staff regarding the change and any updates, and they have a new app that they're going to demonstrate and demo for our staff. That's going to be Thursday, February 22nd. We're going to do the high school, middle school first for about an hour, and then go over to the elementary school and present to those staff members that we have for an hour there, so 2 hours in total. HSA, just wanted to update the board that that had began January 1st, 2024. We board approved that back in September. KeyBank was approved as our HSA administrator. The HSA plan was established with Medical Mutual back in October. Our first employer contribution, which was 50%, was to occur January 1st, 2024. I looked at possibly depositing that December 30th or 31st, but I was advised by our insurance consultant with Suburban Health to deposit the HSA employer contributions in calendar year 2024. So from speaking with KeyBank, they are closed on New Year's Day, January 1st. They open January 2nd, so I delivered in person all the HSA checks that day, January 2nd, to make sure they're in the account. There were some roadblocks that we had run into, but we cleared them. We jumped over those hurdles. Number one, we lost our KeyBank relationship manager, Carrie Luzak. Now support comes directly from the branches. So our main contact is Christy Brickle. She's the branch manager of the Lakewood Bank branch. Medical Mutual also never sent over the eligibility file to Express Scripts, which means prescription drug coverage was not in effect for the first couple days of calendar year 2024. I worked with both Medical Mutual and Express Scripts to make sure Medical Mutual sent the file over to them, and everybody had their prescription drug coverage, and they backdated it to the 1st of January.
That's good.
And we just wrapped up creating what's called a NACHA file to be able to send employee contributions, so employee withholding. So if somebody wants to withhold $25 per pay. We worked on that file to get it created with Huntington Bank to be able to send over to KeyBank. It's the most secure way the banks recommend sending funds to a personal bank account, a NACHA file. We did that with our payroll account. So we worked on that, troubleshooted, and we eventually got there. We just did it this week, so.
Okay.
Sounds like that's been a fair amount of work.
Yeah, and we're closing calendar year end too, so that's
Oh.
W-2s, 1099.
Yeah, nothing of significance going
Yeah.
on. So I don't recall how many people took the HSA. Have there been
We have about 25. give or take.
That's quite a few, really. That's a pretty high percentage. Has there been any complaints so far about the difficulties in making the changes, or are people taking it in stride?
They're taking it in stride. They know that there's going to be bumps in the road as we set it up. So, didn't anticipate the prescription drug coverage not being into effect. And then we figured out that Express Scripts didn't get the file they needed from the IT department at Medical Mutual. So that was something that took some time to work through. Looking at how you deposit the employer contributions and how it makes its way on the W-2 at the end of the year, we're trying to figure that out in our system, because if you cut a manual check as opposed to doing, payroll deposit, they're two different, aspects in the USPS system. So some of when you really get into the weeds, we're kind of finding those issues, but, overall, I think the employees are, happy. They have the cards from KeyBank. The accounts have been set up. We had time to train our staff on, certain aspects of HSA. We had a short runway because we did it around September, October, remember last year, but, I'm slowly becoming an expert as we go. So-
We've got some staff members that have some history with HSA, with where they worked previously, and I think that they've been good go-tos for some of the staff that we're not sure. Frank Zalski has been a huge help because he was part of the HSA when he worked across the street. So that's been really good as far as people getting questions answered internally.
And also to note, there are only 2 school districts in suburban health that utilize HSA, us and Rocky River. And Rocky River did it just a little bit sooner than us. So more, I'm sure, will be. Right, more will be coming.
Mr. Muccio, I just wanted to circle back to your presentation on the change in valuations for our district tax base
Yep.
from 22 to 23. And I wanted to also circle back to a board action that we took back in December, where I believe the board voted to place up an 8 mil levy on the March ballot. And I just want to confirm my understanding that by and large, the 23 valuations that you discussed wouldn't be reflected on what the voters would be considering. And I'm not advocating a position one or another. I'm just trying to make sure that we're factually get that out there in the event people are listening to this meeting.
That is correct. We're placing our current levy on March of 2024, so it will utilize tax year 2024 information. Had it passed back in November of 2023, it would have utilized tax year 2023 information. So when the county comes out, they estimate what that amount's going to be that we generate based off of the most current information that they have for valuations. Back in, when we were looking summer, fall of 2023, putting the levy on the first go-round, they were using 2022's valuations. If we remember, we didn't have quite 2023 at that time. Now we have 23, and we're putting this levy on for 24, so it's going to take some time to get 2024's information once we know.
But my recall or my memory is telling me that the dollars that the board approved to put on the ballot are the dollars that would remain constant if the voters were to approve that. Am I understanding that correctly or largely correctly?
Yeah, the 8 mils does not move. That's.
The 8 mils or the dollars associated with the 8 mils? Because what you
It was
talked
the
about
amount
that
that was
effective-
calculated when we went on the ballot, so
Yeah.
that does not change as well.
The
I mean,
dollars
that's
don't change. I just want to make sure that
So 1 mil was $437,995 last year. Now it's
452.
$452,231. That's how much 1 mil generates, but it doesn't change how much 1 mil will bring in, because it's based on 35% of the market value of the home, correct? Divided by 1,000, which is how we get the 2333. That number doesn't change, is that correct? The 2333 per month for a $100,000 house won't change, because the valuation of the property is gone up.
That's my understanding, is that
changed was
HB
the
920
commercial,
effect.
Right?
And I don't mean to I don't want to get too far off the beaten path here, but I just wanted to make sure for the listeners that we are clear that the board motion that was adopted, or resolution was adopted back in December to put that matter on the ballot. As I understand it, the dollars that we put in that motion are the dollars that will remain fairly constant, if not 100% constant, if the voters were to approve that.
Both class 1 and class 2.
Yeah, I'm trying
Class
to
one,
find
not
the
much though.
exact verbiage. I really wanted to pull
construction as opposed to
Not a bad
commercial.
idea.
All right, so here we go with our ballot language back on November 7th. So this was an additional tax for the benefit of the Cuyahoga Heights Local School District for purpose of current operating expenses, general permanent improvements that the county fiscal officer estimates will collect $3.5 million annually at a rate not exceeding 8 mils. So the county fiscal officer is estimating what it will collect. So that's not necessarily a hard amount, to my understanding.
Okay.
It's going to change because if we look at that verbiage that's in what everybody's voting on, it does say estimate.
Okay.
That's,
But by and large,
By and large.
the effect of the valuations that people are reading about and,
Yes.
and hearing in the media about their potentially changed valuations to 24 or 23, whatever the current numbers are, by and large, those changes are not going to be incorporated into what the voters would be asked to
Yes.
consider. And again, I'm not advocating a position, I just want to kind of make sure we're clear factually as to what the voters would be considering and what they wouldn't be considering.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
But with the current levy, the actual collection won't start until 2025.
yes.
Correct.
And it's based on the values of the properties as of the passage of the levy?
At the time of the levy.
Yes.
Okay.
Year of it, yes.
As calculated by the county fiscal officer.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. Didn't want to belabor the point,
No.
but I just wanted to, appreciate that.
Yeah. While we've gone back to that concept in that sheet, I've noticed something since your presentation earlier. And I just don't understand why they're different. And it's the effective rates that reduce, House Bill 920, that reduce based on the fact that we can never collect more than than when the levy was originally passed. But for Class 1, you can see it going down. For example, the last levy that we had was 7.9 mils, and it's currently being collected at 6.48. So it's already dropped fairly significantly. But the effective rate for Class 2 is also down to 6.9. I didn't, first of all, I didn't even realize Class 2 went down. I thought it stayed up. So that was my misunderstanding. But why are they different? What makes them different?
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to put on the screen, not that I have it here. So on my methodology for the 5-year forecast, so as property values increase, voted millage rates are decreased so that the school districts do not collect any additional money on voted millage due to inflation, HB 920. The
Right.
only way school districts get any additional money on voted millage is from new construction and having their millage reduced to the minimum amount allowed, which is the 20 mil floor, or valuation increasing inside millage collection, which we saw since effective rate does not apply to inside millage. So it's the new construction that's having that primary effect on it. So we can see the difference between Class 1 from the 2 years is relatively consistent. So it's about 3,033,000, 3,036,000. So that's HB 920 coming into effect saying on your Class 1, since the valuation, didn't go up, there's not a lot of new construction coming into play. So there's no additional money that the district's really getting on that. Class 2 is where we did see an increase in valuation, and that would be primarily due to new construction in it. So it went from 234 million to 246 million. So what is that? That's over 10 million that we have, right? So that new construction plays into the effective rates that we have. And it adjusts as you go, and that's why we see the additional revenue that we're collecting. So there are only a certain amount of ways that we can collect additional revenue with valuation increasing. One is inside millage, because that's kind of, stays the same. And that's why we do see about a $60,000 increase for the inside millage as valuation goes up. There's also the reverse to that. If the valuation goes down, you lose inside millage money as well. They talked about that a lot 2008, 9, when the crash happened. We don't see much in the way of Class 1, again, because valuation was holding consistent. There wasn't a lot of new construction. Even if valuation increased, there's effective rates come into play to kind of counterbalance. It's like a teeter-totter.
So the effective rates are different between Class 1 and Class 2?
Yeah.
Based
Yes.
on property valuations in Class
Yes.
1 and Class 2?
The residential
Yes.
Independent of
has
each other.
dropped from 27.18 to 26.34, but the commercial assuming then there was probably new construction in the business realm compared to that in the residential realm. And so now the residential is smaller as the total local contribution.
And I have effective millage on the screen, page 12 of our November forecast. Effective millage is the millage rate that is actually levied on property. Once a levy is voted in, a school district cannot collect any additional money due to valuation increases from reappraisal or triennial updates on that levy. As property values increase or decrease, the effective millage rate on that voted levy is increase or decrease so that the levy generates the same amount of money. The only way school districts get any additional money on voted millage is from new construction or from having their millage reduced to the minimum amount allowed by law, which is the 20 mil floor.
And that's, that does a much better job of making the point I was trying to make earlier, so thank you.
Yep, and there are two different rates, Class 1 and Class 2, that we see.
I guess I didn't realize there were handles there.
And
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the treasurer's?
yes, I wanted to, so we, go back to our meeting, just wanted to touch base on another quick item.
Eight.
We are at 8. Okay, so we have our financial reports. We are at 13E. So 13E, Cuyahoga Heights Schools financial statements for fiscal year 2023 are completed and are available for view on our website under the Treasurer's tab. It is also available in hard copy format in the Treasurer's office per ORC Section 117.3. The Treasurer must publish notice in newspaper circulated in our political subdivision or taxing district that the financial report has been completed and is available for public inspection during normal business hours. As the Cleveland Plain Dealer is the official publication of record for our district, we will post notice there. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Anything else, treasurer? Back to the agenda myself here, moving into superintendent's business, section 14. Turn it over to Mr. Evans.
Okay, I ask that 14A and B be approved as a part of the consent agenda.
Okay. We have a motion for that item, please. Superintendent's consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dobbins, I'll second it.
Just a couple items. The miscellaneous pay rates, there were two changes that are changed actually due to the minimum wage increase, the cashiers for the pool and the ticket takers. Again, that's excluding OHSA tournaments. The state makes us pay at a designated rate, and then they reimburse for that. And then the other change there is the lifeguard with the WSI certification is 18 an hour, and that's for the water safety instruction certification as a change. And that kind of comes into play with the lessons and stuff that the students have worked so diligently on to put in place. So those are the changes on the miscellaneous pay rates. And the district calendar, you see, I want to thank Mr. Young. Mr. Young does in about 10 minutes what it takes me about 3 weeks to do by hand on the computer. And essentially what we do is, because the collective bargaining agreement in the number of days, we're kind of bound by those items as to where we can go. And so there's a little bit of internal movement. We present 3 different calendars to the association to take a look at, with not much variance between them. They came back, and this is pretty close. I think this is maybe a week later than maybe last year. After discussion, we kind of go into the first week of June as opposed to being done Memorial Day weekend, which nobody will complain about until after Memorial Day to me. And I'll remind them that had we started earlier in August, we could have been out earlier. So, and I tell them it doesn't matter to me. I'm here all summer anyhow. We can start and end whenever you guys want to. But we did look at some other options. We're trying to, the nuts and bolts of the calendar will get worked out at a later date. We're having some real serious discussions about going to a standardized calendar with all 3 buildings. In other words, lining up, going back to quarters in the elementary building. I think that with the way the first trimester ended right by Thanksgiving, the elementary students were off, some of them Thursday, Friday, and then the whole following next week. I don't know that was, some of our parents are real happy about that. So we're going to take a look at that and see what we can do to maybe line them up a little bit better moving forward. We're going to involve the some of the elementary people in that discussion when we have it though. So that's a consideration right now, just to kind of align the calendars back up. So if parent-teacher conferences are taking place in the district, they're taking place at the same time in all three buildings. So if a parent's got a fifth grader, a seventh grader, and a ninth grader, they can get all the parent-teacher conferences done in one night instead of doing one night and then coming back 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later to do the other one kind of thing. So trying to be a little more cognizant of people's time as well. So that's what I have for you today.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, treasurer, please call the roll.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh,
Mrs. Zetter.
Aye.
Ms. Prowse.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. Superintendent, comments, discussion?
the one thing, legislatively, not a lot's going on right now. I think the House and the Senate only have 2 sessions scheduled because of primary is going to be in March, so they're not working a lot. That hurts us a little bit when it comes to homestead exemption legislation. We think that there's something that they want to get done. We don't know that they're going to be back in time to get anything done. From what I've heard is that both groups are reluctant to want to come back. They were back in today because I think at least the Senate overrode the governor's veto of the recent legislation. Don't know where that's going yet, but if I were a betting man, I probably would have told you could have bet on that when he vetoed it. So a little bit of that going on. Friday, we've got a legislative breakfast with some of the area legislators in Northeast Ohio, superintendents, and we try, typically that's the Democratic representatives show up to that and the Republican representatives don't. But we've had good conversations with the ones that are there. They understand. And it's not a gripe session, but it's where we're at on different issues as superintendents. So we kind of pick our spots and sit down, and then we have some discussions. And so it's just good to kind of rub elbows with some of the legislators. They know who we are, name with a face kind of thing, or a face with a district. So as they're making decisions in Columbus, understand that it's one size doesn't fit all when they start to make these decisions, because some of the people represent big districts, some of them represent small districts, some of them are urban, a little more rural. So it's a good day for us. We wish we could get a greater representation there, and past Senator Dolan has come to those. I would hope that he would get back to some of those again, but I know he's real busy right now in his bid for state senate. So I doubt that we're going to see. Somebody said, "Why don't you call him and invite him?" I said, "He's not coming." I'm just telling you, he's not, because they know that I've got a relationship with him. I said, "I can guarantee you Senator Dolan's not coming out with what he's got on the campaign trail right now." So it is what it is. We'll keep plugging forward. I will be, I'll send out this Friday, I'll get that in, I'll send out this Friday the group that's, the Fair Funding Group has reached out to us and asked us if we want to be members. That's separate from the coalition that's actually got the lawsuit against the Fair Funding Group. Is a group of about 200-some districts. What they would be looking for, 35 cents per student in the district. So, yeah. But I'll get some information in your hands and we can have a discussion about that. That's actually run through RESC. That group runs out of RESC. That's not a group that's out of Columbus. So, but you can see some other districts that are on that as well. And I was going to say 270, yeah, because the minimum is 250. If you're smaller than a certain number, the minimum anybody gets charged is 250. I knew we were near the bottom. I knew it wasn't 2,100, but I'll get that in your hands and we can have a discussion about whether or not that's something we want to look at as well. So I think you guys get the emails from Bill Phillips and some of those updates, so you see where some of that stuff's going right now as well. So we'll see. It goes through highs and lows, and once the election takes place, it'll all ramp back up itself up again. So the problem with that is that a lot of that will take place during the summer, and we're kind of getting ready to get into a different mode at summertime. So we may have to kind of put our work shoes on and make sure we're taking care of, because some of the stuff is moving away from us a little bit, and that concerns me, especially when we start talking about some of the levy stuff. So, but winter sports are underway, doing a great job. But swim team did a nice job last night. Had a wrestling match down here with the school up the road. basketball lost a heartbreaker last night, led the whole game, and then lost in the last minute of the game. The girls' basketball playing well, so a lot of really positive things. Play tryouts are done, so they're cranking the play up, and you saw from my thing, Model UN just crushed it in Columbus. So I told Mr. Kosevich that after the first of the year that we're going to bring him in and to a work session where he could take some time to explain to you what it all entails, because it really, the work that they put into that and what goes on down there is truly incredible, and our kids are really stepped out on that. But because that's done, he's now in the mock trial, so he does an equally as good job with mock trials. So we might have two things to talk about at that time. So that's what I have for right now.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 17, board business resolutions. We have one resolution before us, which is the approval of the membership with the Ohio School Boards Association. The fee for that is $6,858 for dues and another $240 for the publications. I would entertain a motion for that item, please.
I'll make a motion to approve that membership.
And Mr. Dobbins
As
has made the
described.
motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Decker. Is there any discussion?
I'll just add that I find the publications and the membership to be very valuable. It's my personal and professional perspective.
And I think I just read that I think membership in OSBA might be at an all-time high.
Oh.
I think they went through there was a splinter group a few years ago, and I think I just read something where they stated how many of the 610 school districts in the state were members, and I think they said it's never been higher, quite honestly. So I think only 5 or 6 districts are not members in the state.
And we do get some of that money back because of our participation with some of the purchasing things that they can do for us.
Yeah, purchasing things, they also have a legal hotline that our membership gives us time with as well, so.
Right, and
And-
I don't
and-
recall how much that is. Mr. Muccio might have it off the top of his head or something.
We get a reduced rate on board docs because we're members of OSBA, so.
Yeah, that too, so it does save us money, and it may even cover the cost of the membership, and then some perhaps.
Yep.
So, that's a good thing. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, will the treasurer please call the roll?
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Ms. Kraus.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is board discussion and committee reports and comments. So I'll open the floor for any item. Any members of the board want to bring up anything of interest? Okay, I hate to take over, but I will.
I was just going to say that in Valley View, the Economic Development Committees tried to meet before the end of the year and before the change of the mayors, but there are a couple of things that are underway there for consideration of the board. Impact the district economically, a financial impact but it would not, there are 2 things that they're talking about, but neither one of them would deter or have our property taxes affected for the school district. It's income tax items that's going to be affected. So our school would always be made whole.
Okay.
And with the economic development, actually, there's the possibility then in the future that we gain more from what these 2 businesses are planning to do for the
Right.
district. But I'll have more for that at a later time.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else?
Just looking at the calendar here, are we going to talk about any of the schedule for agenda review for the year, or a
Here's what I would like to do with
rotation?
that. Here's the way I'd like to run the rotation. I would like to delegate the vice president to handle all of the agenda reviews for the work sessions, and then I, as the president, would handle the agenda reviews for the regular meetings. Okay?
And
that
then
way-
rotate the other.
And then rotate the 3 of you. That means that you'll get 1 or 2 more throughout the year that you'll be responsible for. I don't have any problem with leaving them in the afternoons, as Mr. Evans has been scheduling them. Does anybody else need to have those realigned to meet their schedules better, or can we work with that? Can always Zoom if necessary.
And that's always an option, and I think you guys have been really good about telling me I'm not gonna be available on Thursday, so then I automatically include the Zoom option in it, and that's, you know, and I think a couple times, Jen or Steph, you said, well, I'm not available at 3, but I can be available at 1, we can shuffle
I can't
times.
do that every time.
That's okay. We can shuffle times however need to be. I think it's really, when I get the schedule out, has been very efficient. So now that we've got the calendar set for meetings, we'll sit down tomorrow and we'll work out that schedule. Who do we want to start with
What's
for the?
next is what I want.
On the next, because the next is a regular, that will be Gary, and then,
Regular, so
who do you want to start with? Which one of you three ladies wants to be the first victim? I mean, the first volunteer.
You want to do it alphabetically, or?
Well, you can just start at the beginning of the alphabet and work your way down. Is that all right? Okay. Unless somebody has an objection, we'll just take.
Well,
it
first
one
name or
step.
last name, I don't want to get into, I
Yeah.
don't want to fight here. No, I'm teasing you. Jen's over there going, I don't,
So wait, so it'll be next week?
next Thursday.
I'm in California next week, so I'd rather not do next week.
Okay, so then that's fine, then we go, then we'll start with Mrs. Etter.
And I already have 2 things going on the 18th.
Then we'll start with Mrs. Kraus. Then we'll do reverse
I
alphabetical.
mean, my thing on the 18th is from 6 to 8. I have 2 things, 6 to 8 and something at 7. So if it was earlier during the day, I could do, probably.
I can assure you it will be earlier, but we'll do reverse alphabetical anyhow.
Yeah,
We'll
that
start
sounds
with Mrs. Kraus. And then I'll schedule for 3, and then she'll tell me to move it to 1. I'll do what I will.
And fortunately, both Mr. Dobbins and I have relatively flexible schedules since we're both retired, so,
So we're gonna have 2 board members at each one?
Yes,
That's it, okay.
yeah, which is what we've been doing all.
yeah.
So,
It's just that we were rotating differently. It was the president plus another board member. Now it's gonna be the vice president, the president, and plus another board member. And it seemed to make sense to me when I discussed it with Mr. Dobbins as a potential before this meeting, that having the president be at the regular meeting ones made more sense than any other arrangement. Plus that vice president gets a couple months off because we don't have a planning meeting, a work session every month, so. Okay.
okay, so it'll go Stephanie, so reverse alphabetical, first name?
So you'd be the second one in February, John.
3's my lucky number.
So you'd
we
be the
gotta
second
get-
meeting in February, John.
Okay. Me, Maria, you.
Maria would be the first meeting in February.
You're in the
Okay.
middle of the alphabet. Yeah. Kraus, Etter, Decker.
Deca, yes.
All right.
So it didn't matter to you, you were gonna get that one no matter which direction we went.
Do the
You'd be February 1st, Mrs.,
Oh.
oh, no, the 8th,
No,
that's
the
the
8th.
8th is the review.
Yeah, because we're not meeting on the 7th like I
Okay.
thought we should. Okay, I'll figure it out. I think I have something going on the
Okay.
8th too.
Okay.
But earlier in the day would be better.
All right.
Well, we can do that.
Okay, thank you, everybody, on that. The committees, we all have our names on committees from last year. Do we want to leave them the way they are? Do we have that list with us?
Yes, we do.
Get that out. Here it is.
Well, I did not do a good job reminding you, Mr. Evans, about the student achievement. Isn't that my job to remind
Well,
you?
we'll let it slide.
Okay. We can have another
Maybe
day.
review happened while I was out of town or something, and I missed that last year, but,
We can do as we did last year. I think it's, OSBA is in November. I think it's silly to even sit down and say, well, I know I'm gonna be available the second week in November. At this point, I think maybe we can wait until we get back to school and say who can, will, or wants to be at that point in time to narrow it down, because I don't think OSBA starts asking for a name until we get back from school anyhow. So we could almost leave that open and fill that on an as-needed basis.
okay, that's fine.
Because it seems like every year we talk about, for 20 minutes about who wants to do it, we put a name in there, and then we get closer, and then somebody can't do it. So it's like, I'll save us that exercise in futility there.
So, Mr. Evans, you still see a need at this point for a transportation liaison? We've kept that open for quite some time. I'm fine, you know, if and as needed, but
Well, and I would just put in there on an as-needed basis.
of course.
Because unless there's some drastic changes, because quite honestly, Mr. Young does a yeoman's job of keeping the transportation, meeting with them on a regular basis. But I think if something comes to light where A perfect example might be I know there's a real push for the non-public. What's going on with the non-public, if we need some board attendance to have a discussion about what we're gonna do with that and how we might face that, that might be, but otherwise,
Three legal updates.
otherwise, I think we're,
Forward your way.
yeah.
If you're interested.
That's fine, thank you, I just asked the question. That's great, thank you.
And not every committee meets every year anyway, so.
All right.
So with the change in oversight, if you want to call it that, of the finance and audit review committees, just for example, from board to superintendent and/or treasurers, would I be looking to you two individuals or you two gentlemen to schedule meetings or agendas?
Yes.
As needed? Okay.
I think and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong here, you're behind me, so just correct me if I'm talking out of turn. If we get to the point where we need an audit review committee, because the audit gets done here in a month, Matt knows it's 3 weeks off. I think at that point in time, we would talk about availability and who, and then just make appointments at that time. So I would just put to be determined.
That's fine.
That way, that's enough time to get the information in people's hands, and I think that works best maybe for your schedules, as opposed to trying to work a committee around the opposite way.
And frankly, that's the way we do with technology. I don't call the meetings.
Okay.
Well, I guess maybe officially I do, but I get it from Robert or Matt, or Matt, actually. Say, it's time to have a meeting, and we'd like to.
Great.
They ask me when we'd like to do
Okay.
it, and I suggest a time, and then we have the meeting. It's pretty straightforward. They run the meeting.
Good.
They make all the presentations, and then I bring the information here.
Very
And
good.
of course, we try to discuss it in more detail at that level, so we don't have so much time in this meeting to go over those details.
Okay, great, that's great.
I'm happy staying with technology unless somebody else wants it. I'm happy leaving everything where it is unless someone need to change it.
I'm fine with it. The HCCC, aside from a name change or potential name change, is that, I'm fine continuing to serve on that as a board liaison. The Health Cost Containment Committee, it's a mouthful.
I was thinking about changing it, but I'm like, I like HCCC. That's pretty
Okay,
good.
here we are, okay. Yeah, I can't even get all those words out without botching it, so I'll just call it the HCCC. Okay, I'm fine to serve, continue to serve if the group, unless someone else wants to. I'm fine with that. Okay, those are the only questions I have.
Okay, so we'll leave the committees as published, other than we're going to cross off the OSBA liaison and figure that one out closer to the,
TBD.
closer
Quite
to
honestly,
when.
Mrs. Decker, the student achievement, I think that's more of something where possibly this spring, you and I sit down and say, what do we want to, let's get something back in a student, we didn't have anything in the student achievement fair this year, we've had something, some years we had two things, we got fortunate enough to get the
Science.
Scarlet Angels in, but we got some STEM things, but you and I can sit down and have a discussion, what do you think from a board perspective is something we want to maybe send down there to show off? You've all walked through that, you see what's in there, there's just a variety of
Wasn't there a sixth
programs.
grade- Fifth or sixth grade science something, didn't they?
Right,
I
yeah.
wanna say they did a couple years ago.
The STEM went down, yeah. STEM went down with the robots and did some robotic stuff, so, when Mr. Wilson was here, they did Clever Crazes one year. We did one year, the Student Advisory Committee that was very, very active, went down and talked about their interactions with the board members and the principal. So it's been a variety of things, quite honestly, with the way things have gone here, I would love for either Model UN or mock trial kids to go down and just kind of have a booth and talk to some other kids about what they're doing and how they're doing it, because that's really, the time that they're putting in is incredible. But your daughter's doing 8 things at once, but they're putting a tremendous amount of time, and I think it's reaping dividends for them, so.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in those items. My son Andrew is part of that. He's UN, the year he had the opportunity. So. Okay, anybody have any other items? Our December meeting was rather full, and we only had one of them, so I didn't discuss the Career Center at that point. Several things, there've been a couple of presentations. I have a lot of stuff here, if anybody is interested in reviewing it now after the meeting. We have a strategic plan, which is, as there's actually multiple strategic plans in a way. But we have a roadmap to the future, the strategic plan, Skills for Life, which was presented to us in December and/or our November meeting. I can't remember which now. I guess it was December because we didn't have one in November. It was a long meeting in December. It talks about our goals as a district and where we stand with those goals for the last few years and projecting into the future where we might go. It's pretty extensive. You may want to see that. This is the program files and snapshots booklet. These are all the programs that are listed. There's a format here that allows you to key in on 4 focused items. What the high school program is, related student organizations, industry-recognized credentials that come with the program, and then college credits that are available as a result of the program or allow you to move into the college programs. Remember, it's college and career ready. Then we have a couple of news flashes, which I also get. I don't remember if I forward these to you when I get them forwarded to me. I assume you've already been forwarded these. And we have the student connection from Mars Young from Concord Heights. So I think you already got those pieces.
Which program is our student in? I'm just always curious.
Which program?
Yeah.
Auto body. Yeah, girl.
One of our residents is the instructor.
Oh, yeah, right.
Mr. Capus is the new instructor in auto body.
Cool. Very
Yeah,
nice.
also from Valley View, so
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting. I wonder if those 2 items are related, the instructor, knowing the instructor ahead of time. As with many courses, and the Career Center is essentially all elective courses, right? I mean, you choose what you want to take, but it's the instructor that makes the huge difference. And you can see as the instructors move, the numbers of students vary. As you get a new instructor in, a program that might have been okay before, all of a sudden has people clamoring to get into it once they get to know the new instructor. Those things I think are even more prevalent at a career center than they are at a regular school.
And isn't the career night or the CVCC information night is next week, isn't it, on the 18th?
Is it next week? I don't recall.
I thought I saw it on the sign when I drove by.
Oh,
Yeah.
not at the career center, I don't think. I don't remember seeing one on the agenda, but there could be one out there and I missed it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time. I have
They moved all their
copies.
dates up because they did visitation before Christmas, and they'd never done visitation before Christmas. So, they may well have moved that parent night up. I'll double
Yeah, I
check.
think that's what I saw on the sign recently.
Okay. And I do go to those on occasion as well as the regular meetings, they're very interesting. So, okay, and our meeting there is tomorrow night. The President Pro Tem has already taken over. I didn't go to the agenda meeting this month. And of course, elections for officers will be tomorrow. And we'll probably rotate some people around. We tend to do that. It is a 9-member board, so we do. Although one member is only a 1-year appointee, so that member is never an officer. And then some of the others, they rotate so quickly. They show up for a year and they don't even fulfill a whole term. They get an unfinished term, they're there for a year and then they're gone. That happens a lot too, so.
Mrs. Etter is correct. Next Thursday, the 18th, from 7 to 8:30 is High School Student Parent Information Night at CVCC.
Thank you.
So the students have had their visit already, and that's the night for their parents to see what their student is interested in.
Right, that's always a really good, night for people to attend if they have an interesting,
If you need
they're
questions,
interested in
if
any of the programs that are available at CPCC.
you need questions answered, that's the night to go
Whether
to.
you have a child going there or not, it's a good way to help understand what happens there. So if you haven't taken a tour of the building and you have a little time on the 18th, I'd recommend it. And that's all I have, unless somebody else has any other questions. Okay, anybody have anything for possible future agenda items? All right, informational items, it should be noted the Board of Education members do receive their agenda several days prior to the meeting unless they have considered opportunity to study and ask questions and so on. Notice is hereby given that the alternative tax budget for the fiscal year 2025 is available for public inspection in the office of the treasurer. Upcoming board meetings, of course, are 2024 meetings that are all held here in this Monterey Media Center PDR room. Are Wednesday, the 24th of January, February 14th, and February 28th. The one at February 14th meeting is at 6, the other 2 days. Skipping item 22, as was discussed earlier when we had the agenda approval. So is there any other business to come before the board this evening?
I do have to share, we have the OSBA, we were talking about that. I actually have that up if everybody wanted to see how much we saved.
Yeah, that's the item I was thinking of. And it is pretty close to what it's going to cost us. 56, almost $60,000. We're paying 68 for the membership, and we're getting 60,000 back. And that's just this year. We could do even better next year, perhaps.
We get the power, yeah, that's what we,
We don't have that power.
Oh, we
Is
don't?
that how much we save, or?
yeah, we do.
Electricity.
Yeah, electricity is purchased. That's cooperative purchasing. That's what they're telling us that we estimated save by being involved in that consortium there.
Right,
So,
right. If we weren't with the consortium, we were going on our own, we would be paying, they estimate we'd be paying that much more.
Got it.
That's what that means.
Great.
So it is certainly, OSBA is certainly worthwhile. Okay. Any other items? Hearing none, I'll request a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Is there a second? Well,
Oh,
it's not my gig anymore.
it's tough to shift gears, isn't it?
Yeah, shame on me.
Do
Okay.
I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Prowse, second. Treasurer, please call the roll.
Mr. Dobbins.
Aye.
Ms. Prowse.
Aye.
Mrs. Decker.
Aye.
Mrs. Etter.
Aye.
Mr. Souchaki.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned. It is 7:12 PM.
Mr.
Thank you,
Dobbins,